Ready one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with another mini in other words. This is the third one I think I've done during Vlogmas. And in other words is an occasional series where I talk about vocabulary and other stuff like that, idioms, grammatical patterns that I encounter in my reading. And during Vlogmas, I'm keeping them short and sweet. So this one is maybe 7 pieces of vocabulary. We'll see how it goes. The first one is from Eudora Welty's novella, The Ponder Heart, which I tried during Novellas in November and didn't like, so didn't finish. But there was one word that I jotted down because I love this word. It's one of my favorite words, Conniption. It's a word that I think my mom uses, or maybe grandparents, but it's a word that I think is a lovely word. So Conniption, I think most of you know, it's North American informal vocabulary, meaning a fit of rage or hysterics. First found in American English in 1833. Nobody knows exactly where it comes from, perhaps some kind of crazy formation related to corruption. By the way, corruption was used to mean anger at the turn of the 18th century in 1799, or maybe from some dialectical English word, canapshus, which means ill-tempered. Canapshus, I'll put that one up there too. Anyway, I love conniption. I've thrown a few in my day. One phrase out of this lovely 1940s book about whales that I read for nonfiction November, from page 11. What was he talking about? He's talking about the Roman occupation of Wales, so whatever century that is, the 5th century, 410 AD, something like that. And the rebels, the Welsh rebels, would hide up in the mountains, and he says, minor bands of Welshmen, swooping out of their fastnesses, continued to harry the legions. Now, I didn't look up harry because I know harry. Harry means to bother, irritate, disturb, attack. Feeling harried means feeling stressed. But swooping out of their fastnesses was a phrase that jumped out at me. Swooping, I could see birds swoop down, so they're up in the mountains, they come down. But actually, swooping also has a second meaning. It's to make a sudden attack in order to surround or catch them. Swoop. But fastness, it's not just the quality of being fast. This is another meaning, and it means a safe place or fortress. So swooping out of their fastnesses, swooping out of their safe places, hiding places, fortresses. And that comes from the Old English fastness, I'll type that word up there, which means firmness, strongness, and that meaning of fast is the old meaning of being firm or fixed in place. So kind of in a stronghold, a safe place. I thought that was interesting. The remainder of today's mini, in other words, comes from a memoir that Buddy read with Mel of Mel's Bookland Adventure, Stone of Destiny by Ian Hamilton. This is his memoir of a caper, an escapade that he and 3 other young university students from Scotland made in the 1950s that had great cultural and Scottish nationalistic significance, which was they stole back the Stone of Destiny from Westminster Abbey. The Stone of Destiny for centuries and centuries and centuries had been an important stone that was used in crowning the Scottish monarchs. And then at the time, whenever it was that England took control of Scotland, they removed the Stone of Destiny from Scotland and put it in Westminster Abbey, and in fact put it underneath the throne on which the British monarchs were crowned, to show that they were also the monarchs from there on in of Scotland. Well, that never sat well with most Scots, and in 1950, hundreds of years later, these young, crazy, nationalistic, none too bright kids successfully broke into Westminster Abbey and stole it back. So there's some great vocabulary from that, and I'm going to have more in my next mini, in other words. But for today, gang warily. Gang is a Scottish word for go or proceed. So go carefully. Gang warily. And there's a reference to Pictish people or a Pict. And I know there's Picto in the Maritimes of Canada, and I've heard the word, the reference over the years, never really knew what it was. So it's an ancient people inhabiting northern Scotland in Roman times. Pictish people, or the Picts. I want to know a whole bunch more about them. The Roman writings of around 300 AD, they named these people, these hostile tribes of the area north of the Antonine Wall. And nobody knows exactly their origin, but may have been a loose confederation of Celtic tribes. So I want to learn a whole bunch more about them. I love this one. It's an interjection. Hell mend you or bend you. I think usually it's just hell mend you or hell mend him or something. But the full phrase apparently, or at least the way this guy used it, was hell mend you or bend you. Scottish, idiomatic, vulgar, because of the word hell, I guess. It's an interjection to express exasperation at someone whose behavior is likely to result in trouble for that person or other people, but who will not heed warnings. So to me, it's a little bit akin to a modern expression, knock yourself out or suit yourself, which is, I think you're crazy, but it's a free country. It's a free country is another one. You're free to do what you want, but I don't think it's a good idea. But this one is stronger. Hell mend you, quotes from Scottish novels. Jessica Sterling's The Fields of Fortune. You do not want to look after yourself at all. You want Roderick Peters to look after you. Well, hell mend you, Nicola. Hell mend you, Charlotte snapped. I'll give just one more. George Friel, A Glasgow Trilogy. And then hell mend you. You've never danced in your life, have you? Well, by God, she'll lead you a dance. Interesting phrase. Anybody shed any more light on this phrase? This is the last one for today, so I'm going to explain it in context. As he's planning the heist, he's thinking about how to get the stone out from where it's embedded under the seat of the throne in Westminster Abbey. And there's a small lath along the front that holds it in place. And he's really anxious to remove that lath. What is a lath? I have to add that. I didn't check that. A thin, flat strip of wood. How do you pronounce it?
Lath.
Lath, okay. And, it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old, this thin strip of wood, this lath, and he's anxious to remove it without damaging it, but he writes, if it needed to be jemmied away, jemmied it would be. The stolen stone was behind it. So jemmy. Jemmy is a crowbar, especially used by burglars for forcing doors and windows. And so the verb is to pry something open or off using that tool, that crowbar, that jemmy. Jemmied away. All right, that was fun. Thanks for watching.